Welcome to Show and Talk. I am sitting with Heidi Schooler, who's actress, voice actress, and just all-around great entertainment person. All my introductions are awkward. Welcome, Heidi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this is fun.
Good. So, Heidi, tell us a little bit about your background, your story, how you got to where you are today.
Well, we're in Los Angeles right now, so I'm originally from New York, and my mom used to take me into the city when I was little. She's an opera singer, my mom, and she sang with a lot of people at the Met and everything. So I grew up with people that, the lady that sits under the stage in the Met is called the prompter. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my mom and she are very close anyway, because she's also a coach. So my mom used to go into the city to coach with this woman as well as another person, and I used to go along with her, like, you know, try to keep up with her. She was walking really quickly on the city.
As they do in New York.
Yes, yeah. Oh my God, the avenue blocks, and you're like a little kid, and you're like, eh, you know. Anyway, so I got interested in it because I'd go with her to her voice lessons, and I don't know, I found myself under the piano one day eating honey candies. She'd give me honey candies to keep me quiet, I guess. And she would, you know, I just got the bug from her because it just seemed all so exciting and everything. And of course, I met all of her opera friends, but I didn't go into opera, you know. My whole thing was I segued more towards dance, and so I danced ballet in the city growing up, and there were these different musical theater programs, I guess for preteens and teens, and so one of the summer programs I went into the city and I did that, and I guess that convinced her I really wanted to do it. I had to work at Dunkin' Donuts for half the summer to do the other half of the summer where I, you know, contributed some of my money, and then she knew I was serious. Okay. See, my family, they don't just give you stuff. You gotta work for it. No, I'm just kidding. But that's actually a really good thing, you know. I mean,
there are a lot of people, right?
Yeah, she could see that I was really interested in it then. But you know, I rode my bike to Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts is a donut place in New York. Okay, but they have great donuts, just like Krispy Kreme. They're really good. But I know everything about donuts, so we won't even go into that. But I worked there for half the summer, and the other half of the summer I did this really intense but amazing program at the American Musical and Dramatics Academy in the city, and that just spun off because I'd already been going into the city since I was like 13, you know, doing ballet. Mm-hmm. You know, I took the train in, and after school, you know, I studied at ABT, and there was a couple of other places. I did jazz, you know, and so from this place that I went to for musical theater, I met some other teachers, and it just spun off into the fact that when I got to the age of going to college, it either my parents were like, "You're going to college, you're not becoming a ballet person," blah. So which is another good thing. And Syracuse has a really great musical theater department, so I went there. I was into dance, and they have a great dance section there, but I only went there for 2 years. The program is great, but the focus, I mean, I also sing, but I sing, I have a lower register voice, and so I kind of felt, you know, I needed to expand stuff, so I transferred out to Los Angeles, and the second half of college I went to USC. So they had a great dance program too. They had like it's not all about dance. At this point in my life I'm just acting, but for a long time it was, you know. So they had a great dance, but back then, you know, they had a great dance program. It was between that or UCLA, you know, the only real choices out here. Yeah. You know, they've got other ones, but I chose USC, and I did kind of like a mixed theater dance degree, you know, and you know, I graduated from there, and so then from there, at my last year of school, a lady came. She was the aunt of a friend of mine, and she saw me in some show, and she was like a commercial agent, and then it started. So the last year of college, I was trying to juggle going on commercial auditions and college, and that was like crazy. Yeah. That was crazy. It really was crazy, because they'd call you, and you'd be like, I have to be in like, I don't know what, mythology class at 11 o'clock, and they're like, you've got an audition, and you're like, you know, so that mythology class, I'm basing it on real life experience, always had a quiz on Friday, and they always sent me out on Friday. So I had to take over mythology at UCLA and just transfer the credits in later in order to graduate. Wow. I mean, it was always Friday. I mean, and that poor man thought that I just was not showing up, but it was because, you know, you start doing stuff when you're in school. It's interesting. It's one of those things you got to juggle, you know.
Yeah, especially like you said with tests and everything, because you can't just say no to a bunch of commercials because they stop calling you.
Right.
But at the same time, you're like, well,
I'm in school.
Yeah.
And you know, and they expect you during the day to be free.
Yeah.
So once you graduate, for any actors that are like going to watch this, you know, in LA, this is the case, I guess. They expect you to have something that's supplementing your income, you know, when you're not yet doing well. That you can just, at a notice, they let you leave during the day or at night.
Right.
So, I mean, everybody's like, ooh, about waitressing. Or there's telemarketing. I did telemarketing.
Yeah.
You know, to sustain it before voiceover kicked in. And then, well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. So, through this commercial agent who I met through my friend's aunt, whatever, it's just one of those funny things, how things happen, you know. That lady, she's a wonderful lady, she said you really should get into voiceover because you have an unusual, whatever, quality to your voice. I don't know, it's a husky, you know, whatever. So I said, sure. So I took a couple years in learning, taking different classes and things, and I, you know, made a CD or whatever of my stuff, and I was able to get that to different people, and the person who taught the class helped refer me to somebody that helped get me my, you know, first voiceover person, you know, which was good.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like one of those things, but for a while when I still was with that agency that was repping me for commercials, they were repping voiceover, so, and then I went to this other person.
Oh, cool.
But, it, you know, it's one of those things you just have to keep plugging away when you're in LA and not get depressed or, you know, because I telemarketed for 3 years before I did well enough to not have to necessarily do another side kind of job, because, you know, until you can live off of residuals and things, you know, it's an interesting thing, you know, you get asked by your family, and my family's really supportive, I love them, but, you know, your parents worry, so they're like, so how much are you gonna get for this commercial? And I'm like, how many, you know, you can't really explain it necessarily.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you don't know what's gonna come in your mailbox.
Yeah, and even though your mom was in, like, she was in opera, so it's not the same, not at all the same. Like, you get one paycheck and you know exactly what you're going to have.
Right.
So.
But I did get the opportunity, oh my God, I should have done it years ago. Oh, I really wish I did it. But there's this thing in the Met, it's called, you get to supernumerary, it's called super. And you get to be a super or not, and those are the people in the back that hold spears. You know, the guards that are back there that are like, they don't sing or anything. And then for me, because I was dancing, they have like this little troupe of young dancers or whatever that can come in, and they're like, dee-dee-dee, you know, they come into the opera and they, children in the village, and they can do like a little dancey thing, but because I was always busy, I could never coordinate it with it. But it's a fun thing if you ever get an opportunity, because the set there is so massive. They fly these sets in. This is where I really fell in love with theater. I mean, my whole background in the beginning was theater and dance, and then I branched into TV and film. You know, but that, I think, was the key factor of why I got so in awe of theater, was because I went to the Met and I used to just watch and see the sets that they would do. I mean, it is the most amazing timing thing I have ever seen. You know, looking back on it now as an adult, but as a kid, you're looking up at these sandbags, and there's things going up and down, and there are people backstage like, you know, and it's all exciting, you know, and if you've never seen theater from behind the set, you know, behind the stage, it's really exciting. But at the Met, they like fly these huge sets in, like okay, equivalent to like the Olympics, what they would do, but the stage isn't as big as like the arena of the Olympics, but it is one of the biggest stages. And so if you ever see the Nutcracker, there is a tree that comes out of the stage. It's almost like this hatch that opens, and it's the dream sequence when she's dancing or whatever, explaining to your audience if you've never seen the Nutcracker. Anyway, but in some dream sequence, she's sleeping, and the small Christmas tree turns into this huge tree that goes all the way to the top of the theater. You don't even see the top of the tree. It continues up past the proscenium arch. And it is like, it's like this riser that they keep bringing up and up and up, and they're cranking it from backstage to bring this tree up. Anyway, we're going off topic, but anyway.
No,
so anyway, that's like what made me have like, awe, you know.
Yeah, like especially if you're watching it as a little kid and you're seeing them do all that stuff, like the manual, like things that go into it, and then you see it from the front.
Yeah.
It's like, it is. It's magical. Like my origination was also in theater.
Was it? So, oh my gosh, tell me.
Yeah. Well, I just did a lot of stuff in school and like middle school, grade school, high school.
Yeah.
And there were a few times where I couldn't be part of it just because of scheduling, like whenever the performances were going to be. So that's when I started doing like stage crew and everything.
Oh, and so see, you're really amazing in all areas.
Yeah. And it's just so fascinating, like, because when you're watching it, like, you're just watching like this stationary stage.
Right.
As opposed to like in movies and everything where like sets and everything everything change. Like you're watching in one place, but like they take that one place and take you to so many other different places,
right?
Which is really cool. And like that was just from a high school background, so seeing like real productions and everything. I mean, not that high school's not real. High school's
high school's real. I mean, I did that too, but
right.
I had the blessing of being able to go into the city.
Yeah, professional is what I was looking for.
Yeah,
just seeing that and with the money that they have and like the people they have and but you as you're watching the street, you don't think that there are like lots of really small tiny men that are like cranking things down there.
There's like the little elves that live under the stage. No, they're just the stage crew, you know, and they're working really hard. They're like sweating back there, but they're just as important. Just like in TV and film, you know, a lot of people don't see that. You know, if they're not involved in the industry, they don't see the crew doing everything or what goes into it ahead of time. You know, it's always amazing to me. People that are in the industry or, you know, they understand all of that and the time commitment, but people that aren't in the industry, they don't understand. You know, when you say, "Oh my God, I'm still on set" or whatever, they'll say like, "Aren't they done with that?" You know, they have no idea that you know they have to stay there until it's done, until they get the shot. We're not leaving anywhere. You know, and it's great for actors if it's overtime, but I mean, but they need to get the shot. You know, so it's hard to explain to sometimes people that are 9 to 5 jobs, the crazy industry that we're all in love with.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like you guys just do the same thing over and over again. Why does it take 6 days to do like 45 minutes worth of footage? Yeah.
But now you also direct, so this is
a little
a great
bit, yeah.
thing. Mm-hmm.
So I do a little of everything. I think I see a need and I jump in, which is my natural tendency.
But that's great. You get to wear that hat and you learn it to do something down the road in the future.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
Funny about that, and we could talk about the acting thing as well, but just within the last, I'd say in 2008, I mean, I've always written because I was one of the jobs that I did to supplement, you know, my income and stuff before voiceover took off was I was doing reading scripts, and I worked for different management companies I worked for a theatrical, a literary agent, and so I used to be a reader. And so what that is you read all million scripts that are horrible, but then you have to write coverage, you know? So I read a lot of screenplays and stuff like that, and so that was one of my other jobs. So I always was interested in literary anyway prior to that, and reading and everything, but I've always written. I've always had journals and things like that, but my attempt didn't start until the 90s or something to, well, maybe a little bit earlier, I guess, to officially really sit down and try to write something, you know, and I've written like half stories. I mean, I figured out the endings of screenplays when I was a reader and everything, but the one official thing that I did write was a one-woman show that I performed segments of it, but it was one official thing that I really was proud of that I had actually finished. The ending is still pending, depending on how my life goes or whatever, of like it's almost like a autobiographical story of the stuff that I went through when I was having like a challenge in Los Angeles. But it was funny because it has animated characters and I go in and out of voiceover stuff, with different voices in it and stuff like that. So that was one of the first things that I wrote. But I never ever had a chance to really perform that in full. I've done portions of it. And portions of it I've used as my comedy characters that I recently now am sending into New York to people and stuff like that. So it's kind of come full circle around. Yeah. Like, that was years ago, and I was able to go, they want a crazy character. Well, why don't I take it from that, like, one woman thing? You know, and I like, put it in there, and then, like, I had an opportunity to shoot it. And so some of it was stuff that I already had written, and some of it was stuff that I had recently written. So wearing those different hats, we were talking about you doing directing and stuff, I guess I've done producing. Not my favorite.
It's really hard. Like,
I did line producing.
Call me a producer, and I'm kind of like, don't tell anyone that.
No, but I mean, I'm proud of the stuff that I was able to line produce and things on some official projects, and then associate produce on some of these shorter film projects that I helped assist, you know, the director, and I helped associate produce. But and some of those things were cool. But I don't necessarily know, unless it was my baby, that some project that I really wanted to get done, you know, maybe further on in my career, I'll be more on the producing end. But for now, besides the acting and the voiceover, it's only been, I mean, it's been the producing recently as well. You know, I just helped someone finish a short film, so associate producing. But the writing thing has been something that's expanded.